Go ahead and call the meeting, Budget Committee meeting to order. We do have a motion and a second to approve the minutes.
Mayor, can you hear me?
I can, yes, sir.
I can't hear him. I can't hear Mr. Marlowe at all.
Okay, Mr. Marlowe, if you'll talk into your mic, that'll help us a little bit.
Okay. We have called the Budget Committee meeting to order, and there is a motion to approve the minutes and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
So we had a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Commissioner Jones, did you hear us on that one?
Yes.
Okay,
Aye.
okay.
Okay, at this time, Dr. Wright, would you like to present this, or?
You want me to come to the front, or do you want me to stand back here? Does it matter?
You need to come to a microphone that works.
Okay.
Aaron, as I said, got caught in traffic. I'll get him on the line.
Okay, you have a budget amendment in front of you. When you originally received it, it was for $386,160. And again, it's just a transfer of funds between items based on what we already have in the budget, but just need to cover what we have with our STARS counseling, which we use it as a reclassification under safety grant, and I'll explain to the Education Committee. STAR Counseling is a counseling service that we use for middle and high school students primarily, and it's outside what we have the scope of school as far as everything from mental health counseling, crisis management, and really serve a need that we can't cover in school. We've had it for well over a decade. And if you'll also see it as far as there's a reclassifying of interest on bonds for the indoor facilities, and their interest as well. And that was information that was given to us by Aaron as far as he walks through the door. But that gave us the information that we didn't have primarily as far as the difference on that. And then what was added Monday night, we had to transfer money to cover our maintenance department to get them through the end of the year. They've had quite a bit of overtime and having to do more than they normally do from this time period. So asking for approval just to adjust so we can cover the needs within our own budget. And
I'd
asking
like
for
to make sure that it's known that this is money being transferred from within, and this is not any money that you're asking outside of. And the Education Committee did approve this unanimously.
Thank you, Mr.
That bottom line, there is $100,000 coming out of the unassigned fund balance.
Yes.
Okay, but it's still, isn't it still all their money?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. What is, we're not asking for any money. This is just transferring as far as out of our fund balance. And it's, if you'll see that, we also have the there for you so you know where it's being moved to.
Motion to approve.
Okay, there's a motion to approve this amendment. Is there a second? Second. Okay, we would have a motion and a second. Is there any additional questions or concerns?
Tommy Jones made the second there on that one.
Okay, all in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Okay, thank you. Okay, Aaron, we'll turn it back over to you now. Let us get back on track.
Ashley is here by Zoom.
My apologies for being late. Finance report, you have the November finance report in your packet. Things look really good at this point. I'm really impressed with how the expenditures, when I look at expenditures year over year, they're staying very much in line with where we were, as you would expect with the status quo budget, but in a lot of cases even below. And I know the report you're looking at is not a comparative report. So we'll go to the report a few pages back, the revenue comparison that I promised you. You can see that property tax for through November, you're running right at where you were last year, just about $8,000 behind. Don't want to repeat myself every month, but you're at year to date 15.5 million you've taken in versus 12.5 same period last year. So general fund is running strong. Adequate facilities tax, again, when you look at that, it is below, what it was last year, but I remind you again that we did have, quite a spike in adequate facilities tax due to the change in the tax rate. And I don't have anything else I need to talk about at this particular moment unless you guys have any questions for me.
Just a comment.
Commissioner Ryder?
Just a comment, note, that thing I've kept up with, and I know you have too, the hotel motel tax is not going as low as we expected.
It has come back.
It is coming
It
back.
has come back.
and,
Not at pre-COVID levels,
Right.
but it has.
Doing much better, I think,
It has
than all
come
of
back much stronger, yes. Thank you for pointing that out.
Mr. Minor,
Yes.
on the 0.5% sales tax increase we put forth and passed for the teacher salaries increases, do you know what number that is? That has been parlayed into giving the teachers their increases? Do you
No,
have
sir,
any?
I couldn't answer that particular question, but I can tell you that sales tax is running very strong. You can look at that revenue report. If you look at Fund 121, to me is the best place to look because that takes in sales that are made all across the whole county, regardless of whether it's in a city. So you can see, you were at 3.9 million last year. You're close to 4.2 million. So your sales tax is running strong. Now I did hear, there's some speculation about, it's hard to compare a little bit year over year. When I say speculation, this part is not speculation. Year over year, it's a little bit hard to compare because we got $1 million overpayment last year that we were having to pay back. So when you're looking year over year, that can be a little bit misleading. I plan on putting a schedule together, particularly focusing on the cities because the overpayment only affected the county. So if I put a schedule together that just looks at the cities and how they're doing this versus last, I think we get a better feel. But I've also heard some of this is maybe even inflationary, which it's not stopping anybody from buying anything. I mean, everything is running, so far everything is running pretty strong.
Well, I just have some questions from some people in the district. Since we passed it, how much of an increase has that given to the teachers?
Look, I know the school system had a plan for that. I know it was a plan that was put in place because we didn't know what the numbers were going to be. If y'all remember, that's one of the reasons why we passed the status quo budget and put contingency plans in place, because we didn't know how far things were going to fall. We didn't know what things were going to look like. So I know that the plan was not to give the entire raise out as though 100% of the sales tax projected was going to be received. I know the plan was, let's see, but again, that's not really in my area of the house, but I as far as how much has been done so far. Yes.
You were looking at about $5.2
Mike.
million.
Mike.
And when we started the school year with the agreement with the teachers that we would give 70% of what we anticipated, and would wait to see how the revenues came in. And so the final 30% will be in the December 15th check next week, so then we'll be getting the full amount.
Thank you, Dr. Wright. Yeah.
Go ahead and turn.
And also a question, we also make money off of the internet sales too. We also get sales tax off of internet sales too.
Yeah, and we're seeing a lot of that. A lot of them we were getting sales tax off before, but it wasn't being allocated to the right place. It was going to the cities when in fact the end user was in the county. So the county is seeing a boost. Not really, you don't really notice that looking in 121, more in 152, that the county is seeing a little bit of a boost for stuff being taxed in the right jurisdiction. But unless anybody has anything else.
I have a question. On our capital projects fund, we currently have $7.143 million, is that correct?
If that's what that fund balance report says, sir, yes, sir. I haven't flipped over to that page yet. Yep,
As of November?
yes, sir.
And is on your other sheet, you got the 9 pages?
Mm-hmm.
Let me find the page.
I can anticipate your question and go ahead and answer it if you want me to.
Showing that we've taken in on revenue fund 40285, 1.3 million.
The
On
report,
page 8.
yes. On
adequate
page 8?
facility- Adequate facility tax. Showing
Yeah.
we've taken in 1.3. Is the 1.3 part of the 7.1?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. The budget, the budget number that you're looking at, or the number that you're looking at on that fund balance sheet is basically directly tied to the budget that you adopted. So basically, yes. Now, if we see that this number, that the actual number exceeds budget, that will be in addition to fund balance. Or on the other hand, if we see that expenditures are below, although in a lot of times in the capital projects fund, that expenditure just carries over to the next year. So, but if we see, specifically, if we see revenue go above what we budgeted, then that's going to cause fund balance to increase.
Do we have anything dedicated out of the 7.143 million?
Yes, we have a few things. I have a budget book back there. We've already paid the final payment on the Highland Heights Church. That was a big one. That was $1,050,000, I think.
That's out of the 7.1 million?
Well, that was factored in. That was factored in. Most of the other stuff that's still hanging out there is not very big. There's a few smaller projects there. Not a lot of big stuff. I'll take a look at that, the budget book. If there's something changes, I'll get you a message.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, entertain a motion to approve the report.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to
Glover.
approve Aaron's report. Any additional questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Yeah, I think the next one is dealing with capital projects, an appropriation to replace microphone system in the commission chamber. Is anybody going to talk about that one?
I can talk about it a little bit. Aaron with IT approached the Public Works Committee to talk about the sound system that we have in here. And, you know, at nights like tonight, you hear very well. And then there's nights that you don't hear very well for one reason or another. So they directed Aaron to get an estimate to get new mics for all of the mics that are in here. That cost was about a little over $10,000. And so they approved that to send to us tonight for us to consider. They also asked him to look at adding cameras so that Ms. Bush doesn't have to have manual cameras in here, one on each corner, as you see the plug-ins up there. And he's going to do specs on that and put those out to bid and bring those back to you later on. Also to put a drop-down screen in the back so when the Planning Commission is sitting in here and they're dealing with stuff with the people in front of them, they don't have to turn around and look at the Planning Commission, what's on the map over here. So that's a second thing. And there's one more item.
I don't know. I'll be getting the bids. I'm meeting with 3 of the groups next week that will be
Yeah, and I can give those to you right now. The cameras on the wall was about 32,000. The voting system was the second thing. That was 42,000. And 37,000 was an estimate on the back screen, and about 6,000 for labor. So that's what he estimated. So they said, hey, put that out, get some specs and put it out to bid and bring it back to Public Works. So that goes along, you know, possibly later on. But they asked to move on with the microphones, and so that's what's in front of you.
Okay, so the amendment before us at this point is a appropriation of funds to replace the microphone system in the commission chambers. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All,
I have a question if I can ask one.
sure.
Are they gonna be this type microphone, or are they gonna be handheld like Metro, or what are they gonna be?
They're going to be like this, and they're going to be probably stationed already where they are, and they'll be a lot better microphone than probably what we have today. These are pretty old. And, I mean, they do a good job, but, you know, the upgrade is there. But it'll be a standard hard one up here. It won't be a handheld. No, sir.
Okay.
Is the major cost, is it an amplifier system, or is,
I think about 250 or 300 per mic. That is the large part of the cost.
And some of the questions that were asked at the committee meeting, it was told that that is not the most expensive mic by any means.
thank goodness.
Yeah, I know.
Coming out of general fund?
Yeah.
No.
Be coming out of capital projects.
Projects. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It is unanimous. Oh,
You're for it, aren't you, Commissioner Jones? He's aye for it.
all right. Mayor Hutto, if you would speak to the WEMA budget amendments, please, sir. Oh,
This is about the private ambulance fund, so he can speak from there.
okay.
Commissioner Cooper, Director Cooper, if you'd come to the front, that would help us.
Eyes in the back of my head's not working.
One is a line transfer for private EMS applications and permits for $1,500 that we're asking to move over to the ambulance fund.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion and is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the $1,500 budget amendment. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Easy yes.
Then we have unanimous.
A budget amendment to transfer funds to appropriate budget line for gov deal sale of medical supplies. We're requesting that to go over into the ambulance fund also for $855.
Okay. Funds received. There's motion to approve. And
Second.
there's a second.
Second.
Any questions or concerns? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's unanimous as well.
I don't know if that gets mentioned. We have a surplus item, an old ambulance that we're wanting to surplus on gov deals. I don't know if that goes, I guess that goes through y'all.
I apologize, I didn't get the packet, but yes.
So we're surplusing
An old ambulance,
ambulance.
a 2010, on gov deals.
Motion to approve.
Second.
And I have a motion and a second to approve surplusing an ambulance. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
That should be it.
Unanimous as well. Thank you.
This time, we'd like to talk to you just a little bit. Ashley McAnulty is online with us. If you have any questions for him once we get through the presentation. This is really about the jail bonds, which the jail bid came in, and the bond for the jail would be $39 million. We have a bond for that here. Sheriff Bryan has two representatives here for us tonight if you have any questions for them. Sheriff Bryan's a little under the weather at the point that we speak. What I would like to bring to you as well that I brought to Public Works and to WEMA on Monday night in this room is the issue that we have come into with our fire stations in Mount Juliet. So I'd like to address those and see if you would consider purchasing those two stations along with the jail bond of $39 million. And at that time, I know there's an option about taking that out of capital projects, and I will list for you the things that are listed that would come out of capital projects and the things that could possibly come out of capital projects at that time. To give you a short story about how we got to where we are with our Mount Juliet fire stations, for 25 years plus before we got here, we put fires out in Mount Juliet. And got there by a way of them thinking about not doing fire service. They give us their ambulance and their fire truck, and we lived in their station and put fires out. As they continued to grow and progress, and they were probably about the size of Watertown at the time that you started this, they came and to me when I first got here and asked could we bring and put more fire stations in Mount Juliet because they needed them. And if you look at a map, and I know this is going to be tough for you to see, but probably big enough for the circles here, you can see that you had a lot of circles on the left-hand side, or the west side of Wilson County, west of 109. You actually had one in Lakeview, LaGuardia, Gladeville, and Station 3. And then when Miss Elam asked me, can we add one more, I looked at our map and said, I got one on Oak Street, I got a half a station at Carthage Highway 70, and an ambulance in Watertown, and that's all we had. And so I said, you know, we're not able to do that at this time because we have other areas that we need to take care of. They went on at that particular time, if you remember the discussion, and in 2013 entered into their own fire service, ran by Jamie Luffman today, and they're doing a tremendous job down there, and I believe everybody in Mount Juliet loves their fire service. That was in 2013, and in 2014, if you remember them starting up, we did automatic aid for them. So we were doing automatic aid with them, so every time they went, we went as well. 15, 16, and 17, what we had always done beforehand and what we were doing then, we paid the utility bills. That was about $30,000, and we did maintenance to Station 3 as well. So one day, Mayor Haggerty came to me and said, hey, you know, what about you guys before had lived here, but you were putting our fires out. Now you're not putting our fires out and you're living for free. Can you pay me some rent? So I said, how much do you want? He said, $20,000. I said, you know, we're paying $30,000 for utilities. And he said, oh, I didn't realize that. Don't worry about it. Go on. So that was in 14, 15. So in 16 and 17, he came back and said, why don't we do this? Why don't we put those utility bills in our name? And you just write me a check for $30,000. And so we did that at that particular time. And then in 17 and 18, he came to me and said, you know, for the amount of space you got in the middle of a town that's growing like we are, you know, that's pretty cheap rent, and we want to go up. And at the time, we talked about $60,000, and we worked it back because it was in the middle of a year, and I said, there's no way, I don't think that we can handle that right now. So they went back to their commission, and they lowered it back to $30,000, but said, I'll come back to you with an agreement next year. So the next year he came back to me, which was in 19 and 20, and they passed a resolution that I have up here that Mike looked over and sent to us and said, for 19 and 20, we want $50,000. For 2021, we want $60,000. And for 21, 22, we want $70,000. And I thought, okay, I need to bring that to you. Mike looked at the bill, and it's just like anybody else. If you're renting from somebody and they go up on rent, you got a couple of choices, either pay the rent or get out. And but I wanted to bring to you a solution when I came. Then the tornado happened, and then COVID happened, and I was dragging to get here. But I brought to Public Works in WEMA the option to continue to negotiate and rent from them, or to build two stations in Mount Juliet. Now, the two stations that you would build One would be on Clemens Road, which is close to Curd Road. It's a rock's throw from Station 3. If you built that station there, you would just move everything that you have in Station 3 into Clemens Station. So it wouldn't cost you anything. The other station is located on Central Pike. And what you have 3 property owners there. Those 3 are in consideration of donating and us giving a tax write-off. The property on Clemens Road is about $100,000 as we talk about it today. It does have all the utilities there. So I go back to Clemens Road being fully staffed and fully equipped with equipment. I go down to Central Pike and tell you that we have an ambulance and 2 people and the Providence station that we would move there. You would need to purchase a fire truck and put 2 people in there, which is totally 6, a year from now, because it would take you a year to order the fire truck and a year to build the station. So that was a proposal that I gave to both Public Works and the WEMA committee. They asked for me to...
Randall, if you can hear me, I'm having a hard time hearing you.
I am doing my best to talk as loud as I can, Mr. Tommy. And I'll continue to talk a little bit louder.
It's not that you're not speaking up. It's breaking up.
Okay? That would be my computer, I'm assuming. It's not the microphones this time. So therefore, as I presented that to them, they looked at and said, hey, what we would like for you to do, Commissioner Jones made the motion to secure the land, go through the planning process, and bid the stations, and bring it back to you. And they passed that on to budget. I will ask you one more thing to consider as we consider this tonight. As we talked about these stations, and we said, okay, Mount Juliet, we can't help you, but we got to go to work because we have nothing over here. You did exactly that, because as you look at your mount today, you took the people off of Oak Street and you built a station north and south of Lebanon. You put a full platoon at Carthage Highway 70 where you only had 2. You built a station in Noreen, and you refurbished a station in Statesville. So now your circles are full. The only issue that I realized and had heard for a while is that when you look at this bottom section here, you see that circle is in purple. So the area around Watertown is uncovered. You have all the other areas covered. I first came to a couple of 3 of you probably maybe had heard that I was looking for to build a station in Shop Springs, and that was my thought process, because that was the area that's uncovered. Everybody else has somebody, maybe not enough people, but somebody to go take care of them in an emergency need. These people have an ambulance, they just don't have a fire truck. So I looked at I looked at Shop Springs, but then I began to think that in Watertown, if you remember a while back, you entered into an agreement there. You paid for half of the public safety building, and you bought the rest of the building, and Watertown is paying you back for that half. That building is built in such a way that WEMA has control of one side. One side of that has their own bedding, they have their own kitchen, and they have their own showers. So adding a fire truck there and 2 people would save building another station, which is $1.5 million really, or $2 million. And so I went to Chief Hahn, the fire chief at Watertown, and I said, I want to see what your thoughts are. Would you consider this? He said, we would have no problem with that. I said, we can't put out Watertown fires. We don't put out Mount Juliet fires. We don't put out Lebanon fires. We would be there to put the fires out in the outer area of Watertown, in the county part, not in Watertown. Now, our guys could definitely go when the ambulance goes to pick up someone that maybe is heavy. We've had that happen here, and assist in that area. And we could help you. If you have a fire and you need us, you can do just like Jamie Luffman or Commissioner Dow does and call us in to say, hey, come help us. But we can only go at that particular time. We would not be putting your fires out. So they felt like that was an okay deal. I spoke with Mayor Jennings and asked him the same thing. He was good with that as well. So I ask you to consider putting a fire truck there and 2 people. Now let's talk about the funding of that. The fire truck is already in inventory, so it would cost you nothing. The 2 people, which is really 6, when you think about 2 per shift, will cost you $448,000, and you would consider that this year during growth money. When you go down to the Mount Juliet side, you don't need anything for the Clemens station because you got that from Station 3. The Providence station already has an ambulance and ambulance and 2 people. All you would need there is a fire truck. You would order that fire truck in May if you choose to do this, and it would be here next May when the building is built. And you wouldn't consider the personnel for there until the following budget season. You wouldn't need them this coming budget season. It would be the next one. At the same time, you'll consider whatever personnel Sheriff Bryan wants for the addition to the jail. So it's really spread out. The cost, the growth money there. Normally for us, Aaron can speak to this probably as good or better than I can for sure. It's 1.2 million and over most of the time. We think it'd be a little bit more this time simply because we counted 0 last year. So I give that to you as a consideration. And then there's been some discussion about, okay, we've got 7 million right now in capital projects. Could we pay the WEMA stations out of there? Could we pay down on the jail bond with that money? So I said, okay, my job is always to give you the facts and then let you make the call. So I want to do that right quick. Capital projects is at 7 million because they made a rush to buy permits when you raised it from 3,000 to 5,000. So when you did that, there was a rush, and so there's a large amount of money in there. Once it goes down, it will stay down. It won't go back to 7 million unless you decide you want to go from 5,000 to 7,000. I mean, because right now, as we look at the numbers on the AFT, they are pretty steady. They may be declining some. And remember, when you look at that fund right now is counting on, as we look at our debt service payment, right now we're counting every year for that AFT to give us 3,000 towards our bond payment. And if we do this, jail and the WEMA station, but at least the jail for sure, you're looking at it giving it 5,000, okay? So, and I'm saying 5,000, 5 million. So you're looking at giving it 5 million. So that is something to consider as well. Commissioner Glover said, hey, what liabilities do we have in the capital projects? You have 2 more payments on the North Green Hill Station. In November of 21, you're going to owe them 90,000. In November of 22, you're going to owe them 90 more thousand. The microphones tonight you just approved was $10,000. USDA parking lot. That's as you drive in the where the convenience center is over there. The USDA building and the health department, those parking lots need to be redone. And Robert Bain said I'll need $65,000 for that. When you built the building, when you bought the Fred's building, you said I don't want to put new HVAC units on top right now. As they run out, we will replace them. So we didn't borrow that money for that. Those units there total up to be $105,000. If you buy a WEMA truck to go in the station in Central Pike, and by the way, when you talk about that one, remember those people do not have any fire coverage right now. They only have an ambulance. If they get a fire service, it's coming from Station 3 or Gladeville. So you are adding fire protection to them. But if you get that fire truck, that's $500,000 to you that would come out of capital projects to be bought in May or ordered in May. You won't get it till next May. The WEMA gear is a part of that, so I won't cover that. We did talk to the people about raising the AFT and putting a convenience center in the northwestern corner of the county. That's $1.5 million for that one. And we have been transferring $1 million out of this fund to debt service. Aaron is not for sure if we'll do that this time, but in the past, we have always done that. The land cost for the Clemens station is the only cost right now that I have in consideration for land. It's $100,000. It would come from there. And as I told you, what Public Works asked Aaron to bid out, that totaled to be roughly $32,000 for the cameras, voting system $42,000, $37,000 for the back video screen. Those expenses there that are pretty real to us are $3.6 million, which would run that fund balance down to, give me some math here, $3.5 million. You have normally stayed at 3. Now, 3.5 also will be, we have to count on part of that every year to make our debt service payment. And then once it's gone, then we rebuild back with permits every year. I asked Robert, I said, Robert, I know that's kind of for things that we might have to have. What could cause us trouble? He said, well, you had a fire day before yesterday on top of the jail where the vent caught fire up there, and we'll have to replace that, but probably not a lot of money there. But if your boiler goes out here, you're $100,000. If your chiller goes out, it's $120,000. If the backup generator at the jail goes out, $165,000. If the sewer grinder at the jail, which sometimes happens with inmates throwing clothes in there, that is $46,000. So that's almost $500,000 there. You do have 5 WEMA stations that are old or older: LaGuardia, Lakeview, Gladeville, Statesville, and Carthage, which could have a roof at any time. Don't know that they're ready for that, but that's $60,000 that I've got to be ready for. And then he said, Mayor, I have 33 buildings. I can't tell you for sure what's going to happen, but that's what we have that capital project fund for. So I give you that just so that you will know that those are out there. They may or may not ever hit us. So as we look at tonight's bonds, I looked at what is the difference between 39 million and 43.5. 43.5 would be adding the 4 million for the WEMA stations and $500,000 for the cost of issuance. Aaron will talk to you in just a minute that we have an opportunity tonight to refinance 4 bonds. Those 4 bonds are going to save the county taxpayers $4.5 million in interest. Not going to extend the life of the bonds, just going to lower the interest rate down and going to use the same amount of money there. So that $4.5 million could actually be really offsetting of your WEMA stations if you put them in this bond. But Ashley is on here tonight. He can answer any questions that you'd like for him to ask. What if we paid the WEMA stations down? How much money does that actually save us? The interest rate on that for 20 years is $640,000. That's $33,000 a year. That's over the life of 20 years is what you would save. Is that cost worth having that in $7 million, or it's going to be less when you take this out, but having that cushion? We went through a tough time, as you well know, with COVID and the tornado. But as Ashley will tell you, we did not go through a financially crisis either here. You guys have been stable and you've kept things at bay. So I just ask you to consider all that. Ashley prepared 3 different documents tonight. One, $39 million if you decide not to do the WEMA stations. 43.5 if you decide to add that to the bonds, and the refinancing bonds. If you did these, all the cost of issuance would just be 1. You wouldn't have to pay the cost of issuance for all 3, so that is the beauty of doing these at the same time. We had no idea that the refinancing would happen at this time, but it did happen at a good time because it does offset the extra expenditure that we would be incurring with the WEMA stations. I can answer any questions that you have on this. Commissioner Marlowe.
Concerning the station at Clemens Road, since it's so close to the current station, what is the what's the payback for us? Why do that?
Okay, so on Station 3, okay, you have rent. The second thing you have is that is an older building. They are building a station north. I can't speak for them, but they may move there. That building becomes valuable for them for the city hall to create something. Again, that would leave me no home. The one close to that, the reason I think it's good to have it close, and if you looked at it on that side, what we try to do is, as we did Lebanon north and south, Maddox, Simpson, and 231, we wanted to go east and west of Mount Gigot. That way the people out here had quicker fire coverage with the fire trucks, but the citizens had the same amount of ambulance coverage. We don't want to lessen the ambulance response time in the city of Mount Gigot. Okay. And then down here on the bottom, with Central Pike, they actually will have the same ambulance coverage, but we're going to have brand new fire coverage for those people in that area.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Got it. Any other budget members? Yes, sir.
Had we considered buying that building, even though it's older,
Mount Gigot,
where the Station 3 is?
that's where their fire station, that's where their people are.
They're gonna stay there.
Yes, sir. They have their, we've been living with them in there. Yes, sir.
We've been there with them.
Yes, sir. And Commissioner Kurtz had brought up a good point at our Public Works meeting, so let me cover that with you. They said, hey, we own land beside Mount Gilead High School that you bought and prepared for a middle and elementary school. And so we talked to Mr. Hall about that. He did not submit any of that to me in the beginning, so I called him back after Commissioner Kurtz's question and said, could we do that? He said, well, I didn't give it to you the first time simply because we don't think we can get it on there. It's going to be tight for the two schools, but let me talk to Rob Porter. So I talked to Rob Porter, and Rob said, it would be hard to do that. He said, but your other cost is this, it doesn't have sewer. So I said, what's the sewer cost? He said, $250,000. So that 250 or pay 100,000 for the lot, it was a no-brainer for me to stay where I'm at. That's just going to cost me another 150,000 to try to be there and try to squeeze it in. And so I called Commissioner Kurtz and told him that today. Other questions for me? So I guess I turn it back to Commissioner Marlowe for a decision on, do you approve the $39 million bond, or do you add $4 million to it for the WEMA stations? Either one, where you do 39, it'd be 39.5, because you add after 5, the $500,000 for the cost of issuance of these bonds, or 43.5 for the jail and the WEMA stations. And Aaron will handle it. Aaron will handle the refinancing when I finish, I hope. And Ashley is on here for questions. Yes, sir, Commissioner Jones?
Why would we borrow $39 million when the cost of the jail wasn't but $38,657? Well, what's the need in borrowing $300,000 that we don't have a place for?
Okay. Cost of issuance, Mr. Jones, is what Aaron Maynard said.
Yes, sir, but you just also said you were going to add $500,000 to it for the cost of issuance.
That would
going
be,
to make the bond for $39 million plus the cost of issuance, is what you just said.
and Ashley, can you speak to that? You will need to unmute.
Well, the 39 million, I think, was an estimate from the county in terms of just a maximum dollar amount needed for the jail. I'm not sure. I haven't seen your project specifications or anything like that, but the 39.5 was simply a maximum number. So if the county needs, less than that, then certainly that's what we'll issue. But it's based on your estimates as far as what the actual needs are that you all receive, and that's the amount we'll issue. It's just what you need.
Okay, so that's a maximum. We don't necessarily have to borrow all of it.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
Exactly.
Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you.
Any other questions for me or Mr. Maynard or Ashley McAnulty?
Tell us one more time, there's two choices or three?
There's only two choices
Okay.
I
thought you
believe.
said
It's
three.
either 39.5 or 43.5, and that is up to, and Ashley may want to speak to this, we will not borrow more than what we need exactly. And then when you start borrowing that money, Ashley can explain this, the premium that we get, meaning that you borrow that money and you put it in the bank and it draws interest, okay? So that interest comes back to you. They calculate how much that interest is going to be. So a lot of times, well, for example, I think North Green Hill, we said it was going to be 105, but we only borrowed 97 million, okay? So because of that, and Ashley, you want to explain that to them?
Right. So bonds are sold in the market with a coupon and a yield, and so the difference between the coupon and the yield would be what creates what's known as a bond premium, and that's the amount the underwriter is willing to pay Wilson County in order to purchase a higher interest rate for future marketability of those bonds. So they pay you additional money up front at the time the bonds are sold, and then you repay it over time in interest. It's not free money, but it is money that you can use on the front end to reduce the par amount or the size of the bond issue when you issue the bond. So when we get the final specifications, numbers that you all need, cash that you need, or bond proceeds for your project, then we take that plus the underwriter's discount and cost of issuance, and you end up with a net amount of the bonds. That's what we issue, only that amount. We don't issue anything over and above that in the market, and those are done through a competitive bid bond sale to try and achieve the lowest interest cost for the county. So we take bids from a number of underwriters to be sure we get the lowest interest rate for you.
Ashley is prepared to talk to you if any of you want him to on why would we not take $4 million out of capital projects and add it to this bond. if you want him to speak on that, he's welcome to do that right now.
I'd very much love to hear him speak, Mayor.
Okay, Ashley, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. So there are a couple of reasons, and ultimately it's the Commission's decision as to whether you all apply idle funds or reserve funds toward any reduction of the debt service. So it makes no difference to me in terms of how you do that or if you do that, but I do want to kind of go over some thoughts as you think through that process. So a couple of things. Wilson County is rated a AA plus bond rating. So when you issue bonds in the market, you are scrutinized by the rating agency. We spend quite a bit of time educating them on the county, the economic development of the county, the population, the per capita income levels, all the various factors of your finances, all of the major taxpayers in the county. So a lot of information is provided to them. They have in the past rated Wilson County a AA plus, which means you
Mayor,
all...
I'm not able to understand him at all.
Okay, I may be speaking too fast or something where it's not picking it up on the mic. Can you hear me now?
Now, I hear him good now.
Okay, I'll slow down a little bit. So Wilson County is a AA plus, and so as part of that, the county is one of the, let's see, there's 5 counties that are AA rated. So that would be Knox County, Rutherford County, Shelby County, and Sumner County, and of course Wilson County would be the 5th one. There's only 2 above that, and that would be Hamilton and Williamson County that are AAA rated. So you're in the top 7% of counties in terms of the bond rating and the evaluation that they have done of Wilson County. So you're in the top 10%. And a big part of that consideration is how much you have in the way of funds available to take care of your debt service as you take on new debt service and pay your existing debt service. So just want to make a point, good reserve levels, total governmental fund balances is an important part of maintaining that AA plus bond rating. You say, well, why do we want to have a AA plus bond rating? Well, when you have a higher bond rating in the market, you're able to sell bonds at a lower interest rate. So that lower interest rate also results in lower interest cost when you issue those bonds. So Wilson County has worked hard to get to the level where you are right now. It's not to say if you use those funds that your rating will drop, but it is certainly a consideration as you make that decision. A couple of other thoughts on this, and every county in the state faces the same type question that you all are asking yourselves right now, but if you have a natural disaster or an emergency event like you all had, you didn't miss a beat, even though it was extremely difficult on the community to deal with the tornado and the round of winds that came through the county, and then of course addressing the COVID costs and issues. You all were prepared to and didn't miss a beat, and you certainly demonstrated your resilience in that process. So I think that's an important thing, and it's a reason that you do maintain those balances so that you don't have to be in a financial crisis at the same time you may have an emergency or a natural disaster type crisis. So those are the primary thoughts. Of course, Mayor Hutto described the portion of that that's committed to future debt service, which is important because as you look at possibly drawing down those fund balances, then you may be at a point in the future if your adequate facilities tax revenue were to decrease, say you had a recession or economic downturn, then those revenues in that fund balance that are created by that may also be impacted negatively. And that may impact your future ability to make debt service payments. And I think he's gone over that. So with that, I'll quit talking. But if you have any questions, certainly I'm happy to try and answer those and help you through that process.
And just to add one thing to what he said, Ashley, tell him what the expected rate is right now, which is, I think, unheard of at this point in time, too, if you lock it in for 20 or 25 years.
So a 25-year fixed rate in the current market is at 1.75. And I've been in this business. I've been in banking for 25 years, been in this business 20 years, and that's the lowest I have seen. We've had bond issues on a 20-year basis in the 1.5% range. We've had, so 25 years at 1.75 fixed rate. That's not a variable rate. That's a fixed rate. tax exempt rate in the current market. So that's what the rates are right now. What they will be when you get ready to issue the bonds, they may be a little higher, maybe a little lower, but certainly an unheard of rate that we're seeing right now.
Actually, just for curiosity, while we're talking, we always talk about wanting a better bond rate. If we had a AAA, what would be the difference in interest?
Well, you would likely see more underwriters bidding on the bonds. So now you have 10 or so bids every time you issue bonds, just about. You probably have 15, 16 bidders. It would be more bidders, more competitive, and you would probably see somewhere in the 10 to 15 basis points. So when I say 10 to 15 basis point range, it'd be 0.10 to 0.15% less. So on that 175, you might see a 160, 1.60.
Okay, that was just for curiosity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody have any other questions for me? Mr. Marlowe, I'll turn it back to you.
Okay, at this point in time, we're considering either an amount of $3.5 million for jail bond resolution or 43.5 million, which would include.
If I speak, Mayor, will they be able to hear me?
They can?
Before we get done, I'd like to say something.
Okay.
Before we vote.
Yes, sir. They haven't made a motion yet towards anything, so we'll let you speak now.
All right. You know how I feel about it. I'm not hung up on having it to be exactly at 10% of the bond, but I feel we taxed people in the county and brought that money in for the purpose of building a jail and some WEMA stations. And I'm all for building the WEMA stations. We're going to build them. But we're starting that jail project, and we have some money there to work with. In my eyes, it's a must. We use some of it on that jail. That's what we tax people for with it. Why not put it to work right now? You know, we can talk about what could happen, all the contingency things that could go bad, but they could have went bad whether we raised the facilities tax or not. So I'd love to see some of that money put to work.
Just to answer his question, it will be going to work because as soon as you issue the bonds, it will go to make the payments on it.
I want it to go to work now, Mayor, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, you'll have to make the first payment as soon as it comes due. But that's completely fine. You have that right. Commissioner?
Okay, what I was going to do is I was going to give, we have a lot of commissioners here tonight, and committee members, first of all, I'm going to ask the committee members, budget committee members, do y'all have anything that y'all want to say or ask before I open it up to the rest of the floor?
I had something, but I forgot.
Okay, does any commissioners want to have anything to say about this before we even make a motion one way or the other? Yes, sir.
Thank you. The Mount Juliet area in general is exploding in growth right now. And I don't know, a lot of you don't come down there on a daily basis, but for those of you who do, and if you do get down there, recently Mount Juliet opened up a road that connected Bender's Ferry with the interstate in Bear Parkway. It has opened up 20,000 acres, 20,000 maybe, and there is available utilities. In the past, I'm on the planning commission down there, and in the past several months, several hundred homes, neighborhoods are flirting with Mount Juliet in the area. And the county is going to be responsible for the ambulance. And there's a lot of development that's not in the city of Mount Juliet, just on the outskirts, that the county will be responsible for fire. And so, I don't like to spend money, and I hate the duplication of services. But if we're gonna err, I'd rather err on the side of safety. And so, it's my opinion that beefing up fire and ambulance in Mount Juliet is a good thing right now, because it's coming, folks. And that's not even considering all the folks that are leaving states that don't like the way they've been run through this pandemic, which there's a lot of people relocating that never thought they would go anywhere. That's just my comment. I think I would weigh on the side of accelerating services. Thanks.
Does anyone else like to
Mary's
make a
actually
comment?
there.
I'd like to make a comment.
Yes, sir, I'm still here.
I'd love to ask another question if you've got time.
Go ahead.
That'd be fine if that's
Yeah.
appropriate at this time. That'd
Yeah,
be fine.
we're having questions right now with the commission. Go ahead.
Talking about the cost of issuance, if we issued the bond for the cost of the jail tonight, and we turned around in a month, 6 months, whenever, and had to borrow $6 million, would that be right, Mary? We need, is that what you told me,
No,
for the
four.
Wayman Station?
4.
So if we had to turn around at a later date and borrow 4 more, how much money would that actually cost us, Ashley?
As far as cost of issuance on 6 million, you said, is that
Yes.
your question? Okay.
Yeah, well, no, 4, the mayor said.
Oh, on 4 million, okay.
Just a round number.
So you're probably looking at, somewhere around $75,000 to $100,000, something like that at that time. That'd be cost of issuance plus underwriter's discount.
Okay. So it's a significant amount then.
That's right, yeah, that's,
And I assume the interest rate would probably be higher on a $4 million bond.
well, it wouldn't necessarily. It could be depending on what the rates are at the time the bonds were sold. And so it could be higher or lower, but it really wouldn't matter based on the size or dollar amount.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right. Thank you, sir.
thank you.
Commissioner Marlowe?
You have a question? Yeah, which I was kind of like Commissioner Jones there about bringing some of the money out, but the more that we discussed it, and the more I'm looking at it, and especially with the interest rate down close to 1.5%, I think we just about have to do the 43.5 million now, and have a little bit of, I guess, a little bit of a cushion. I hate to use the word cushion, but to have some for things that might go wrong, because if things happen like it has in 2020, then we're going to probably need more than what we have. But I go ahead and make a motion to do the jail bond resolution for $43,500,000.
I think you had another question.
I just want to voice my support as well for that. I think it'd be smarter to borrow the money at the rate they're talking about. It's almost free money, and the interest on that, I don't think we should go wrong by doing that. I think that'd be the smarter way to go. Thank
I
you.
do have one more question. If we do it on 20 years versus 25 years, how much of a percentage are we going to save?
I'll bring that to you. I have both of them. I don't have it in front of me, but I have both of that. What we really consider on that, too, or what you will consider, is the depth or capacity of your fund balance in your debt service. We try to have at least 95 or better if we can keep that. But I will bring that to, I will get that to you so you can consider 20 to 25 years. But I think for us, what we've looked at so far, and Ashley can speak on this, the 25 is the better fund balance debt. We don't have much debt when you look at the amount of debt that we've gotten over 20 years. We have a lot at 20 years, and we like to keep it there if we can. We have 1 or 2, I believe, at 25, but most all of them have been at 20, because that way in 10 years, you've paid half your debt off.
Okay. Well, I'd like to make the motion to do the $43,500,000 to cover both the jail addition and the WEMA stations and the fire truck.
I'd like to second that.
So,
Hey.
just so you could hear, Mr. Jones, Commissioner Glover made a motion to present to the county commission the 43.5, which included the WEMA stations. It was seconded by Commissioner Stafford. And I'm assuming now Commissioner Marlowe will call for questions.
Yes, sir. We have a motion and a second for $43.5 million to cover the jail and WEMA needs. Is there any additional comments or questions?
He's asking for comments or questions. Anything, Commissioner Jones?
Yes, are we borrowing the money to refinance those bonds, Randall, or to build WEMA stations?
No, you're borrowing the money to build a WEMA station, 2 WEMA stations, and the jail. That's what you're borrowing the money for. When we talk in a few minutes about the refinancing, which will save you $4.5 million, that won't be borrowing anything. That'll be getting money back to your taxpayers.
Well, I understand that, but it just doesn't make sense for me to be borrowing over $4 million and we don't even own a piece of property to build a WEMA station on at this particular time tonight. You know, I've made that comment before, so it's not something that hadn't been heard before.
Well, you give me the permission to go and secure those, and that's what we have in plan, and I believe I can bring that to you just as soon as we get the plats done.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Committee members, any additional comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay. 1 no.
Now we're ready for resolutions for the refunding.
Yes, sir.
I got a question. Do we need to go out of session for a second, do the commission meeting since it was supposed to be at 7 o'clock?
You got one more left, is all you got on the refunding, and then you're done, but you can do what you, it's up to y'all.
Right.
Mike?
We can go ahead and do it.
It's not gonna take but a second, I don't think, unless you want to turn down $4.5 million.
I just didn't want us to get in trouble.
And breathing.
And then we'll be right to that, sorry.
I'm sure most of you have seen the paper that was behind the 2 proposed financings we just discussed. There's actually a few that we have. One in Fund 151. Basically, does everybody have this? Yeah. So, this was originally $37,995,000, Series 2012. Basically projected savings on refinancing that bond at this time with these low interest rates that we've been talking about is a little over $2 million. And then several out of 152. And by the way, before you ask, anytime we do a refinance, we do not extend the term that the money is being paid over. It stays at the same. So if we owe 10 years on it, we're refinancing for 10 years. The term is not being extended. So, so you got, 3 others here? The 10.2 million, Series 2008, net projected savings of 445,000. 36 million, Series 2012B, savings projected of 1.456 million, and then 14,605,000, Series 2014. You're looking at a projected savings of $589,000, total of $4,545,000 projected savings if we refinance these under the same time term that they are presently being paid. So,
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to refinance some loans, bonds, excuse me. Any questions, concerns from committee members? All in favor?
Second, Commissioner Jones, to refinance if you couldn't hear. Any questions?
No.
No questions from Mr. Jones. Go ahead.
Okay, no questions, so all in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion. Need to adjourn this meeting.
Motion.
Second.
A motion and a second to adjourn budget. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay.